Hi, welcome back to Kitchen Tracks. Today we're making a recipe from Ireland called soda bread. Soda bread is really special because it's a quick bread, which means you don't need any yeast. You don't have to wait for a starter because instead of yeast, you're gonna be using buttermilk. It's also really special because you can add in caraway seeds, raisins, whatever you like. But I'm keeping mine plain today. One time, my friends and I even made a Lucky Charms soda bread for St. Patrick's Day. If I find a picture of it, I'll put it in right here, but yeah, my friend made it, I helped. Something went wrong, but it was good. It was interesting. But now I want to try real soda bread. So let's get started. To start, go ahead and preheat your oven to 400 degrees and crack one egg. Now to add in the very special ingredient. You're gonna wanna add in 1 3/4 cup of buttermilk. Go ahead and whisk the egg and the buttermilk together. I really don't like the smell of buttermilk. I'm assuming soda bread is called soda bread because of the baking soda in it, but I'm not sure. Now we're working on the dry ingredients. So I brought over my handy dandy KitchenAid stand mixer, and I'm gonna measure out 4 1/4 cups of flour. Once you're done adding the flour, you're gonna wanna get 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar and add that in. Soda bread is like a milder version of like a biscuit, kind of, but it's definitely more bread than biscuit. Next, we're gonna add in 1 teaspoon of baking soda, followed by 1 teaspoon of salt. Before we add in the butter, I'm gonna mix up these dry ingredients. As always, this is always the easiest part. Now we're gonna work on the butter. For this recipe, you need 5 tablespoons of butter. And you wanna make sure that it's cold, so keep it in the fridge until this step. And I'm gonna break this butter up into smaller pieces. Then you're gonna go ahead and scoop all of it in to the flour. Anytime I'm working with dough, it's time to get serious. I'm gonna wash my hands again. You want to start clumping the dough and the butter together and move it around. You want it to be in as small of pieces as possible. Kind of like you're making pie, but with pie, obviously, like the butter needs to be way colder. But you don't have to worry about that this time around. You want to make coarse pieces. Do you see how this is kind of clumpy? That's how you want it to be, for the most part. There's obviously way more flour in here than butter, so it's not gonna touch every piece of the flour, but you want small pieces of butter dispersed around the flour. This shouldn't take that long because, again, you don't wanna overwork the dough because we're not trying to form too much gluten. For this next step, I'm gonna use my stand mixer, but you don't have to use a stand mixer. You can just use your hands even. I'm gonna let this stir for a bit. And while it's stirring, I'm gonna incorporate my buttermilk mixture. If you wanna start adding raisins at this point, you can, but I'm not adding raisins into mine because I'm gonna make a bread pudding with this soda bread later. Within minutes, you'll see that the bread is becoming really stiff and it's mixing really fast and it's getting stuck, and that's what we want. My dough became way too thick to mix, and that's when I know that it's ready to be taken out of the stand mixer. Now I'm gonna lightly oil this surface and bring the dough down. And I'm gonna knead it for about 30 seconds, not that long. I basically want all of it to be covered in moist flour. I'm forming it into a ball. You can bake this bread easily on parchment paper and a baking sheet, which is what I'm gonna do. So all I'm gonna do now is transfer this dough over to baking sheet, and I'm gonna use a knife to cut or score the top in like an X. And since my oven is already at 400 degrees, I'm gonna put it in for 45 minutes and check halfway through the baking time to see if it's burning. So it's been halfway, and as you can see, it's kind of browning at the top, so I'm gonna take it out, cover it with foil, and put it back in. Once you take the soda bread out of the oven, you're gonna let it rest for around 10 minutes, and then it's ready to enjoy.